And welcome back to my YouTube channel, and you are watching The Nerdy Grail. Now, it's Thursday again, and you know what that means. A new episode of Agatha All Along has dropped, and we are on episode 7. So next week is the final week, because they're doing a double billing of episodes 8 and 9 together. But episode 7 was titled Death's Hand in Mine, and yeah, it was an okay episode. Had some interesting themes in it. It was centered mostly around Lilia, this episode. And it starts with Agatha and Billy continuing their journey down the road after all the big identity reveal has happened already. And Billy and Agatha start having a conversation. Billy starts asking Agatha questions about Wanda, like is she dead, so on and so forth. Until eventually they stumble upon the next trial, but it happens to be in like this gigantic castle this time, the outlook, almost looking like the castle from the Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz. And when they enter, both Billy and Agatha transform into characters from other Disney shows and Disney properties and other famous things that we know of, like Agatha becomes the Wicked Witch of the West, and Billy becomes Maleficent. I don't really fully, if I'm being perfectly honest, see the reason for that, apart from just, oh look, she's the Wicked Witch of the West and that's Maleficent, you know? It seemed a bit off, really, to be honest, and it didn't play into the trial at all. And the trial, obviously, being centered around a divination spell, caused it to be a Lilia-based trial. It was all around tarot cards, Teen, and I'm going to be switching between Teen and Billy, because I still can't get Teen out of my head. Sit down, they start doing the tarot cards, and there's these swords that fall from the ceiling every time they make a mistake or get something wrong. So Agatha decides to start speed running all of them to get it out the way. And then more and more swords start falling from the ceiling really, really quick. And Teen stroke Billy lets her know that they're not going to have enough time to do that. But Agatha thinks they have plenty of time, but then all of a sudden the ceiling starts closing in on them, starts to descend, and so that shows that obviously time's running out, and the road has thought about speed running it. But we sort of spend most of the episode with Lilia and Jen, and Lilia is sort of bouncing between different parts of her life, in the tunnels, after being sucked under the ground, during the trial with Agatha, Teen, and Jen, back in the past with an old teacher who has sat giving advice and reading tea leaves and seeing how her life's grown, really. We soon find out that Lilia is sort of suffering in terms of her whole life seems a bit out of sequence, which is why all throughout the series she's been just spouting nonsense or random phrases. It's because she's just come back from a future event or a past event and is giving advice and warning the characters about things to come. And it's sort of like that for most of the episode. And so it can get a little bit confusing at times. I do like Lilia as a character, and I think it was an interesting trial. But overall, it was probably one of the weaker episodes again for me, and that's sort of how this series is starting to decline a little bit, if I'm being honest. Where it just seems like they started off on something good with the backstory of Agatha. And then the first trial and first getting on the road seemed to be a lot in detail. Now they just seem to be rushing through things, whereas the trials, I was expecting it to be a lot more scary, a lot more dark, but it's really, really not. But it is nice in terms of character development. Like Lilia's character development is really, really good in this, and I like her as a character. And by the end of the episode, obviously they do pass the trial in the end, because Lilia is able to finally fill in the gaps in her life that she feels she's been missing from experiencing things out of sequence, and so helps them to win the trial. They are being pursued still by the Salem Seven, who do end up reaching the trial just as they've passed it and have left, but Lilia decides to stay behind and almost sacrifice herself. But before that, she did pre-warn the rest of the crew, because Rio obviously isn't with them all of a sudden now, and so a lot of people are wondering where she is. But we do find out that actually Rio turns out to be Death in disguise and is seeking after them, seeking after Agatha and seeking after the rest of everybody else. And so they need to sort of get away. So that's a warning for a future, probably for the finale now next week. And so Lilia lets them all escape. They all leave the trial. She stays behind and just basically sacrifices herself. She tells the Salem Seven that if you stay in a trial for long after the trial is passed, something bad will happen. And what happens is almost gravity switches. And the swords that were on the ceiling are now on the ground, and they are on the ceiling, so they then start falling and then get impaled on the swords. So all the Salem Seven are impaled on the swords, and unfortunately that also then means that Lilia does get impaled on the swords as well, and so it seems as if she's probably now gone as well. And it seems to be that way every episode. We seem to be losing someone, because obviously we've lost Alice, we lost Sharon, so it is foreshadowing what happened to Agatha at the start of the series, where they questioned Agatha about how many people survived being on the road with her last time, and she just said one, meaning probably her, and so that's what it seems now, because now we've just got Jen, Billy, and Agatha herself, and Rio, if Rio pops up. But I'm imagining now, if Rio pops up, she'll probably be, against them now, because they're pretty much going to be towards the end. And whether the Salem Seven are truly dead or not, who's to say? They could crop up again easily. And that's sort of how the episode ends then. After we see Lilia and the Salem get impaled, it cuts. Then we don't see the rest of the crew's reaction, but I'm sure we'll get that at the start of episode 8, sorry. But yeah, so overall, I'd probably say I'd give this episode maybe a 5. It was alright. I enjoyed the theming, I enjoyed the setting, and I enjoyed the character development of Lilia, getting to see all the backstory with her. But in terms of the trial, it was very lackluster. The use of having them all dressed up as different characters that we might recognise from other films and properties was a bit silly, if I'm honest. And they haven't really explored the fact now that obviously Teen is Billy, or is seemingly Billy Maximoff. They could have done that a bit more, but I'm hoping that in the finale they will really go in detail on that, because we want to see a lot more of Wiccan. See him fully become Wiccan, and then that can set up then future films or future TV shows. But that is it for episode 7 of Agatha All Along. It's just a shorter review today because there wasn't really a whole lot to get into, if I'm being perfectly honest. And like I said, it was about an average episode overall. But next week, obviously, will be the final 2 episodes of Agatha All Along, premiering on Halloween, which is really, really interesting, so I look forward to that. If you did enjoy this video, please like it by giving it a thumbs up. Comment down below what you thought of Agatha All Along. Have you been enjoying the series, and are you looking forward to the finale? And subscribe if you are new. I've just realised that we have actually hit 100 subscribers, so thank you so much, and I will be doing a 100 subscriber special at some point in the next week, so stay tuned for that. But for now, this will be the Nerdy Grail signing off. I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye for now, everyone.